Hey guys, welcome back to Jessin Reads Romance. I'm Jessin, and today I'm going to be doing a collab video. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about books that I fell in love with the author at first sight. So this is the first book that I picked up by them, and they completely won me over with one single book, the very first book that I read by them. And I'm really excited to dive into this. There are some authors that you've definitely heard me talk about before, but I think that there is such a distinction because when I was making this list, there was a lot of authors that I'm like, well, I love that author. And then I think about the first time that I actually read a book by them. And maybe it wasn't love at first sight. And that doesn't mean if you don't like the book, the first book that you pick up by an author, that you're never gonna like anything that they read. That's why I always give people tries. Second and third, I'm capped out at 3. But these authors, they hit it out the park with the very first book that I picked up by them, and I want to talk about that. So thank you, Crystal, for asking me to be a part of this video. I'll link everyone else's videos down in the description box below so that you can go watch theirs as well. So let's get started. The very first author that I want to talk about is someone who I actually recently discovered, and I still think that I'm in awe of her writing and the stories that she tells. I just can't get my mind off of it. So of course, it's the first one that came to mind whenever I thought about love at first sight authors, and that is Carissa Broadbent. And I picked up Daughter of No Worlds. Crystal actually recommended it to me. And I think that this is one of the best fantasies that I have read in recent years. I just truly love it. I think that Carissa Broadbent is really extremely talented. So I did read Daughter of No Worlds first, and then I actually read The Serpent and the Wings of Night after that, which is a completely different series. But this book, oh my God, made me a fan for life. Like I just knew that Carissa Broadbent was going to, I had a feeling she was going to stick the landing. This is part of a trilogy, and I recently finished the trilogy. It was phenomenal. I love it so much. So if you like fantasy romances, I think that Carissa Broadbent is a wonderful new addition if you have not heard of her before. I just can't say enough about her. I truly can't. And I think that it has a lot to do with the way that she builds her characters. I know that a lot of people really want fast-paced fantasies, and of course, I like my action scenes as well, but I definitely want a character that is well developed. And I think that Carissa Broadbent is such a master at this. The heroine, who is really truly the main star of the show for this series, Susanna, I loved her. I loved her from the very beginning. I loved her journey. And the romance between Susanna and Max is a little bit slow burn in the first one. And I don't mind that. And I think it was wonderful. And I think that their romance throughout the entire series was just perfection. I loved them so much. They are definitely a top tier couple, and Carissa Broadbent, amazing. If you haven't tried her yet, you should definitely try her. Okay, next we're gonna go old school, and some of you may not be surprised that this author is on this list, but so I was actually thinking, I was like, what was the first book that I read by this author? I could not figure it out until a couple of days ago. I literally had to go down memory lane to figure out what it was. So Nalini Singh, I could not figure out if I read her Psy Changeling series first or if I started the Archangels or the Guild Hunter series. And I came to the conclusion that I actually picked up Angel's Blood first, but I'm pretty sure that I picked up Slave to Sensation very soon after. So this is actually the UK edition. I collect all of Psy Changelings from the UK because I just don't really like the American versions. And also, there's a distinct theme to all of these books. No matter which arc of the series that you're in, they're always going to feature the hero on the front, and it's going to be like, you know, a little half face. And I don't know, I like consistency in my book covers. I hate it whenever a series changes covers, and the US editions absolutely do change themes in this one. Okay, that was a side tangent. Anyway, okay, so Angel's Blood, Slave to Sensation, I basically read them back to back, but I did pick up Angel's Blood. This is an urban fantasy, and Nalini Singh is so talented. I think that every single series that I've read by her has completely different tones, and it caters to completely different audiences. I really feel like I'm definitely a member of an audience that likes to read across genres. So every single one that I've read by her contemporaries, her urban fantasies, her paranormals, they have resonated with me. I've connected with them, and I think that that is freaking talent. Not to mention that both of these series are so long running. I can't remember how many books are actually in the Guild Hunter series, but I know that we're like on like 23 or something in the Side Changeling series. Like that is a serious commitment that this author is making to these series. She really likes the world that she writes in, and I obviously love it because I own all the books. Except for the most recent one, just because I'm waiting for the paperback to come out in the UK. But anyway, like I said, Angel's Blood, urban fantasy, and we have humans. We also have vampires, and the vampires are actually turned. They're like a byproduct of angels, and it's kind of a secret on how vampires are made. Not every human can be turned into a vampire. And we also have the guild, which is kind of like vampire hunters, and our heroine is actually part of that guild. She is a vampire hunter basically, and the Archangel of New York actually hires her because he has a mission for her, and it takes a turn. I love this series. I still think because Elena and Raphael are the main couple of the entire series, but some couples get their own novels, and you just never know which book she's writing next, if she's going to write about Elena and Raphael or she's going to write about one of their inner circle basically. And I do like to be surprised, but I still think that Elena and Raphael, I mean, they're the glue that ties this series together for sure. I absolutely love them. I still love them. I need to read the newest one that came out though. I still haven't read that one, which I'm very excited about it. And then I think that the tone, like I said, the tone for her series are very different. I think that the Guild Hunter series is a little bit darker. In Slave to Sensation, I remember picking up this book directly after, and I was like, wow, I don't know, I expected this book to be a lot darker. Not to say that it doesn't deal with like some heavy elements, but it's more like a warm hug. Like this entire series to me is like a warm hug. If I'm feeling down, I go pick up a Side Changeling book. I do also own all the books in ebook as well. The only thing I don't own is the audio versions of it. But I think it's safe to say after buying, like, I think I own more than 40 books by Nalini Singh. I think it's safe to say that she is definitely one of my top favorite authors, and it was definitely love at first sight. I have not turned back. I've not looked back after that. Next is a historical romance author. So a couple years ago, I actually was browsing on, I think it was like an Audible sale, and I really just stumbled upon this book, this audiobook, and I fell in love. That was The Making of a Highlander by Elisa Braden. Elisa Braden is fast becoming one of my favorite authors, historical romance authors of all time. I've talked about it a lot, and I just feel like she has such a solid writing style, and she also creates some really lovable characters. I was very interested, especially like I feel like this is almost a unique story, because I have read a lot of books by Elisa Braden now, went into her backlist. There's almost a paranormal element to this one, but I do like the explanation as to why the heroine is seeing this kind of ghost. But anyway, I really love the dynamic between these two characters. It's kind of like a teach me book, and they're exchanging like, okay, if you teach me how to be a Scottish gentleman, how to compete in the Scottish games, then I'll teach you how to be like a lady. And I really like that. But Elisa Braden, she's so solid. This series is so good. In her Rescued from Ruin series, I die inside. I definitely have my favorites, but immediately fell in love with this one. I think the same month I read it as well. This was the gift to my patrons who are at the highest tier. I was like, you all get this book. I was like, I don't know, I just love her so much. So yeah, Elisa Braden, impatiently waiting for the next book in this series, but oh god, so freaking good, so talented. And then another kind of new to me author. I do have a lot of more recent discoveries, because when I was picking the authors that I was like, this was love at first sight whenever I picked these books up, I did also want to kind of make the stipulation that I still read books by these authors, because there's tons of authors that I fell in love with more than a decade ago, and I still remember them very fondly, and those series are still like very fond in my memory, but maybe they're either not publishing anymore or I don't read their most recent works, so I did not count them for this video. I thought it was fine to just like stick to the books that are the authors that I currently still read, and it was love at first sight. So anyway, I digress. So Flawless by Elsie Silver. Obviously, a lot of people really loved Elsie Silver, and I was a little hesitant to pick it up. I think that lots of people are hesitant with hyped books because they're afraid that they're building it up in their mind too much. And I think that sometimes it's just kind of like, I don't want to be the odd man out. If everyone's liking this book and I don't like it as much as them, like, it makes me feel a little bit awkward sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. And I think that that was one of the things that made me a little hesitant to pick up Flawless. But oh my God, once I did, it was amazing. I actually recently reread this at the beginning of January because the audiobook came out, and the audiobook is also absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I love it. But this series in particular, I think, is so strong. I did go back and read her Gold Rush Ranch series, which is also really good. But like, the writing and the characters are so top notch in the series. It's freaking ridiculous. And each of the stories as well is very different. We have, you know, a bull rider and the daughter of his like agent, manager, one of them. So that's the first book. The second book is a single dad and a nanny romance. The third book is a kind of like second chance, also best friends to lovers romance. So it's like there's something in there for everyone. And again, I think that one of the things that sticks out to me, especially for this series in particular, Elsie Silver always handles third act conflicts so well, in my opinion. I think that they're some of my favorite resolutions to stories because sometimes that is something that'll make or break a book for me, is the way that an author chooses to resolve whatever conflict, if it's internal or external. And sometimes it doesn't work for me, but Elsie Silver, I think that she's kind of a master at it, and that's just me. Okay, next, another historical, Stacy Reed. I mean, if you have not heard me talk about Stacy Reed before, where have you been? Because Stacy Reed is freaking fantastic, and I still have not read all of her backlist. It's one of those cases, like just Lisa Keppis, which is also on this list. I haven't read all of her backlist either, and it's almost like you don't want to be done because the books are so satisfying and so good, like you don't want to be done with it. But the first book that I picked up by Stacy Reed was My Darling Duke, and it's a Beauty and the Beast trope, which is, surprise, my favorite. I love this book so much. I think that it was such an interesting, unique take on kind of like a fake dating relationship as well. So the heroine, actually, her family is about to be, you know, destitute. So she decides to put a rumor out that she's engaged to this notorious duke who hasn't been seen in society in years. But she just decides that she's going to announce that they're engaged, and this actually increases her social standing so that I think she wants her sisters to also be elevated so that they can find good marriages as well. And lo and behold, this duke actually gets word of it. He is a scarred hero. There was an accident that did happen, and he gets word of it, and he actually goes to investigate. So he is seen in society for the first time in so long, and instead of confronting her and like trying to make her life miserable, he decides to go along with it. And I absolutely love it because I don't think that I was expecting that. And Stacy Reed, I think, creates some of the most unique stories. I recently read her newest release, The Wolf and the Wildflower. Fantastic. I mean, literally anything Stacy Reed writes, I will read. She's just that damn good. Oh my God. Chef's kiss. Cannot talk enough about Stacy Reed. She needs more recognition, I think. No surprises about this author. Mile High by Liz Tom Ford. Tom Ford, oh my God, blowing me away with this amazing hockey romance. She has created such wonderful characters, and I think that that is kind of a common thread that you will hear in this video, is the authors that really truly draw me in and the authors that I really stick with, they know how to create these characters, and in a way that the story is about them, and she's not trying to fit characters into a story or a trope that she wants to tell. These characters are the main event. They're so well done, and I love this couple so much. I think she's also kind of cracked the code on having kind of like a typical, I would say like a typical guy who plays sports, professional sports. You think of them as playboys. They have a lot of money, and they have lots of girls willing to throw themselves at them as well. And I think that the way that Xander is introduced, you know, you think he's going to be this like typical guy, but very soon after reading just a couple chapters in his point of view, you realize that there's just so much more to him, and I really appreciate that as well. She really gets to the heart of the matter when it comes to Xander's. And then Stevie, she does such great work, I think, with body positivity, because it's one thing that Stevie is insecure about is her body type. But I think that it's really the relationship and the way that being in a relationship with Xander gives her more confidence. And I don't know, I just freaking love it. I love it. Liz Tom Ford is absolutely amazing. The Right Move is absolutely amazing, which is the second book in the series. But yeah, again, another author that I just am ravenous for, and I will read anything that she writes. And then, of course, we have to have the queen, Lisa Kleypas. Lisa Kleypas. I think that I picked up Lisa Kleypas pretty soon after I started reading Julia Quinn, but Lisa Kleypas has some of my favorite books of all time. She's written some of my favorite books of all time. And I think that Secrets of the Summer Night was just such a perfect introduction. I do like the way that she starts off series. It's very clear that you know what characters are going to get books, and makes them very distinct from each other, and the Wallflowers are no exception. The Wallflowers are so iconic at this point, and yeah, Secrets of a Summer Night absolutely captured my attention. Also, I am and it's not that I'm biased toward this series, but I think it's very telling. So my favorite book in this series is Devil in Winter. And one of the main things that I actually remember about Secrets of a Summer Night and the second book, which is It Happened in Autumn, I believe that that's the title. St. Vincent is the one that stands out to me. I was always into his character. I was like, at first I was like, oh no, is he going to be a slimy man, slimy, uppity aristocrat or whatever? And of course he is made to be out as this villain in the first place, but I love a good villain redemption arc story. So anyway, Lisa Kleypas, as soon as I picked this book up, I really just binged through her Wallflower series and then the Ravenel series she was currently writing in, and I didn't even know how extensive her backlist was when I first picked her up. And I'm still working on that. That's one of my goals for this year, is to actually finish, and it kind of makes me a little bittersweet, especially since Lisa Kleypas has not announced a new book that she plans on writing, and I'm like, this can't be the end. Say it ain't so. But anyway, I guess I'll be satisfied with the backlist. It's fine. But yeah, Lisa Kleypas, I think that she's such a standout author, because overall, not to say that any of these authors don't have misses for me. Well, some of the authors who only have maybe 2 books out, they haven't had the time to write enough books for me to hit that one that didn't really work for me. But I think every author is going to have at least one book that doesn't work for you. But the percentage is high with Lisa Kleypas. I mean, the percentage of books that I absolutely love is so freaking high. So high. Last but not least, I debated on whether or not to include this author on this vlog, but I'm just like, no. And last but not least, I debated on whether or not to include this author on this video, but I was just like, no. I still, even though I don't technically read the books that she's publishing right now, her backlist is still books that I read over and over and over again. Okay, so that is Juliet Marie. Wolfskin was the first book that I ever read by Juliet Marie, and I love it. It has such amazing characterization and world building. This isn't historical fantasy. It has very light fantasy elements in here, and it's so beautifully written. I think that she's just such a talented author. So my aunt actually gave me her copy of Wolfskin, and that's how I started reading Juliet Marie. And after that one, I was like, well, I want to own these copies. So I picked up Wolfskin, and she's like, okay, the next one that you have to read. And I'm kind of wondering why wasn't Daughter of the Forest recommended to me first? Well, I don't even know if she remembers, but she gave me Wolfskin first. We must have been talking about something was I craving some Viking man or something? I don't know, but I know that Juliet's, favorite book in Juliet Marie's backlist is Son of the Shadows. And so when I was thinking about what was the first book that I actually picked up by Juliet Marie, I was like, it was Wolfskin. Anyway, okay, so this is my copy of Daughter of the Forest, and I've read it so many times that this cover is just completely come off, because I used to read in the bathtub. So it's no wonder why this book just did not hold up, but I will not get rid of it because I am sentimental like that, and this was my most well-loved copy that I own, and I will never get rid of it. I will never get rid of it. But yeah, if you're craving something that is heavy on interpersonal relationships and not just romance. And every single one of her books does have a romantic element. They're not categorically romance at all. There is always an HEA for her books though. But if you crave strong relationships between siblings and friends, and of course our love interest as well, I think that Juliet Marie is just such a master at that. And she incorporates things like Celtic mythology, Norse mythology, and in such a beautiful way. The Fae are a very minor role in these books, but they're so cool and I just really love it. So yeah, I had to include Juliet Marie in this. It's editing, Jessen. So I missed one of my favorite authors of all time, and I was just like, I can't let it go. I can't let it go. I am ready for bed. I'm in my PJs. I am sans makeup. You can probably see my sunburn that I got this past Saturday at a Mardi Gras parade. It doesn't matter because this is too important to skip. I was a little bit too confident in my ability to recall all the authors that I want to mention without actually referencing my list, because I was like, oh, I have the majority of the books sitting here right in front of me. Well, the problem is the first book that I read by Kennedy Ryan, the freaking queen, is Long Shot. And if you can see, I have a gap right here. Long Shot's not here. My sister borrowed it, so I don't actually have it. So it wasn't in my pile and I forgot about it, but I was like, I can't let it go. I absolutely can't let it go. So we're going to talk about Kennedy Ryan, and I'm going to hold up Grip, one of my favorite books by her. Kennedy Ryan. It kind of amazes me that the first book that I read by her was Long Shot, because I think that if you're familiar with my channel right now, you know that I don't really gravitate towards really high angst books, but Kennedy Ryan is one of the only authors that I trust with handling such heavy topics, because she always makes it worth it in the end. And Long Shot truly blew me away. And even though I owned Flow and Grip as ebooks first, but I let them sit out on my Kindle for a little while because, you know, Kennedy Ryan, when I first, started getting into podcasting and I was like searching for a lot more, books and recommendations, I saw Kennedy Ryan's name pop up a lot, like back in 2018. And the Grip series was the one that I heard the most about, but I was a little bit hesitant. It was one of those cases where I was like, okay, this series is so hyped. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to get in this series, and what if it's disappointing? So I let that kind of hang out on my Kindle for a while. And then she was currently in the middle of writing the Hoop series. Blockshot had not come out yet, and I was like, well, I'll try out this one because it feels like less of a commitment than starting in on like a trilogy. I didn't realize that Flow was only like novella sized. So I picked up Long Shot. Oh my god. Oh my god. Long Shot. First of all, the cover. The cover is 100% what swayed me to this book as well, to finally pick it up, because I was like, beautiful man on lovely sports-esque romance. Yeah, I want to read that. I did not know that I was going to get kicked in the feels, but again, Kennedy Ryan has some sort of magic when it comes to writing such heavy topics, because I've never read an author other than Kennedy Ryan that can make me feel like every single one of her couples, they feel like soulmates. Like, true, honest to God, this love is eternal. These people were made for each other. Like, that's what her books make me feel. That's what her couples make me feel. I mean, there's so many quotes in this book, but I was so obsessed with this book, and I was just actually starting my podcast with Juliet. I remember I used to make these like flat lays and stuff, and I wanted to make like this custom card I saw on Etsy, and it had like a basketball. I wonder if I still have it. I probably can go dig. Now that I'm on camera, I probably can go dig it out, but I got it, and I got the quote by August that said, I play you at the 5, and I'm just like, there's just such unique quotes that it's literally, I love you. That was also a trend that I saw on Instagram recently, where it was like, I love you, and then translated based on the character that said, like, what is their way of saying I love you. And August, I mean, what a swoony hero. The way that he loves Iris from the very first. And also, this is another instance where I don't normally love, like, kind of like love at first sight books. Ironic, because this, whole video is about love at first sight authors. But I feel like love at first sight is kind of hard to pull off believably, because most of the time it's lust at first sight, but Long Shot does not miss. This is absolutely the case of love at first sight, and I believe it. I totally believe it. So needless to say, after I finished Long Shot, I was like, okay, I'm ready to jump into the Grip series. I read Flow, and then it kind of ends on like a cliffhanger, and I was like, oh my god, what is this woman doing to me? She's making me a crazy obsessed person. And then of course we get Grip, and I'm still obsessed with them as a couple. I reread them at least once every year. Long Shot, I don't read as much just because of the heavy subject matter and how domestic violence is very much on the page. It's very front and center. It is well done. And I think the journey with Iris, like healing and stuff, I think that that is really great as well. But yeah, you can definitely always catch me rereading the Grip trilogy at least once a year because I'm just that obsessed. Love at First Sight. I will buy anything by Kennedy Ryan. I think that that is pretty much the through line for this video is, will I buy anything by these authors? Yes. Yes, I will. Okay, I am really gonna go see if I could find that card. Because if I can, I'm going to show y'all to show you how crazy obsessed that I ordered these custom cards just to take a picture. Okay, we're back. They're in their little plastic wrap, but I'm going to take it out because it's probably going to be reflective. Okay, so this is the card that I ordered. I'd play you at the 5, August. I was obsessed. I was obsessed, and I wanted like the perfect picture. It was one of the first episodes that we did on the podcast as well. Definitely early episode, and I don't regret it. These are beautiful too. I don't know. I want to put it like in a keepsake box or something. So many great memories. So many great memories. So yeah, thank you for indulging me in this little insertion, and you can get back to the video now. So this was a really fun video. I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to really think about like what authors did I absolutely fall in love with on the first try, and they just knocked it out of the park for me. I had a lot of fun discovering what those authors were, because sometimes it does take a little while for me to warm up to an author. Let me know what your Love at First Sight authors are in the comments down below, and also let me know what authors you think you would recommend to me that you think would be a Love at First Sight author for me, because I kind of want to do that, like a recommendation video where you recommend me a book that you think that if I read this book, it will make me a fan of that author for life. That sounds like a fun video to do. So I might just do that. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe to get notified on any future videos that I do. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, life's better with little HEA. Bye guys.